Since coming to Konoha following her brother's failed execution, Naruto took her own set of missions, which got harder as time went by, and the war they were now fighting helped prove her mettle. But now her brother was back. He had ripped Kyuubi's power right out of her father and was apparently stronger than ever before. She knew the only way to settle this little family feud between them was to see which sibling would win in a fight between them. Mount Myoboko. You have done a terrible thing, Jiraiya. You told us the boy had been killed because he was losing control of the Kyuubi inside of him. You lied. The great toad sage yelled at the Sannin, currently quaking in fear at the rare display of anger. I had to do it. Minato believed either he or Naruto was the child of prophecy you foretold. All the signs pointed to one of them. I trained Minato when he was a genin, and then I trained Naruto when I wasn't focusing on my spy network or doing my research, explained Jiraiya while mumbling the last part. And what of Minato's son? You didn't train him. Even after he signed our summoning contract, questioned Shima, as she gave Jiraiya a piercing stare and saw the man looking away. Aside from summoning, I only taught. The Rasengan, mumbled Jiraiya with the toads looking unhappy with him. It doesn't matter if you taught him a lot or a little bit. The original vision I once had of the future showed that the child of prophecy was learning from you to combat the evil that was to come. Now the vision has been changed to something else entirely. Now I see a demonic warrior, forged from a dragon of royal blood, and him marching to war with those that hate Konoha. Tell me, Jiraiya, why do they hate Konoha? Demanded the great toad sage, with Jiraiya looking even more uneasy. Because they were allies and friends with Naruto when he went on missions. Plus, some of them are past enemies from when Minato and Kushina were out in the public eye, explained Jiraiya with the toads looking furious. You baka. Because of you, your student, his family, and those that support him with this war-mongering. The shinobi way as we know it is being threatened. The system is at risk of falling apart and will either be changed into something else or it will be destroyed. At the very least, Konoha will not survive this onslaught, and you only have yourselves to blame, declared the great toad sage, with Jiraiya looking shocked by this. We can still stop this. We destroyed the first prophecy and it became something else. Why not try to do that again? Questioned Jiraiya, with the toads looking at him with murderous eyes. Because you fool, a prophecy is never meant to be destroyed, just as it is never meant to be influenced by mortals. It is a sin above all others. It is a spit in the face to all the gods, all the deities, and the universe itself. The punishment for doing something like that is a new prophecy coming about. A dark prophecy, one that foretells the ending of things rather than providing a hope of a possible chance in saving it. You lied to us, Jiraiya. You and everyone in Konoha spit in the face of the universe. Now you expect us to help you fix this mess. It cannot be fixed. Especially not now with what you told us about the ones responsible for bringing Naruto back to our realm, explained Fukasaku, with Jiraiya now looking confused as well as worried. What do you mean our realm, Fukasaku? Asked Jiraiya before the elder toad sighed in frustration at having such an idiot of a man being their summoner. For once in your life, Jiraiya, you will pay attention to what we have to say, for this will not be repeated again. This is a story passed down from before the time of the Sage of Six Paths, who learned it himself from his own teacher, and his teacher before him. This is the story of the many different realms, the One Being, and the Elder Gods, replied the great toad sage before explaining about the One Being. The Elder Gods, and how the One Being was destroyed to make the realms, while the Elder Gods maintained watch over all the realms following that event, and how they were the final supreme authority in the universe who made rules to govern the realms without interference unless necessary. Oh crap! When Naruto was about to be executed all those years ago, I remember how he called out to the Elder Gods to save him from death. Something about the pact Minato had made with them when sealing away the Kyuubi had been violated, mumbled Jiraiya to himself, but the toads still heard it. And now, The child of prophecy has returned with hatred in his heart, replied Shima in a depressing tone. But it just can't be possible. He is the child of prophecy. Naruto barely received any training under me. There is no way he could become strong enough to fight Konoha, like you are saying, after only 6 years away from our realm. Even if he gathered allies from all over the elemental countries, the Akatsuki are still around, and they are going to want his power for themselves, explained Jiraiya before being hit on the head by Fukasaku. Baka, have you not heard a word said to you? The elder gods have spoken. Naruto has come back to this realm, a warrior. Whoever took care of him since he was gone was able to mold the boy into what he has become now. We warned you that the boy might have the potential to surpass his parents, just as much as Naruto. But you wouldn't listen, said Fukasaku before smacking him again. He was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. His purpose was just to be a tool for the Leaf Village to use how we saw fit. To be molded into the benefit of Konoha's prosperity and glory. His life was supposed to have little to no meaning, protested Jiraiya, but it only resulted in him getting hit harder. Liar. If you really believe that junk, then Minato himself would have been used as one too instead of faking his own death. He was just as much a Jinchuriki as Naruto was, and yet you hurt the latter, exclaimed Shima before she joined in beating the Sannin up. Ow, 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 stop, please. How do I try fixing this? There must be some way to stop Naruto from bringing doom to everything and everyone? Questioned Jiraiya before they stopped beating him up. You can't stop it, Jiraiya. Not this time. Know that the boy you used, hated, and abused for your wicked schemes no longer exists. In his place is a warrior, a conqueror, and he won't stop until Konoha is consumed by the very fires of war you helped fan. No one can escape it. Not you, Minato, Kushina, Naruto, Hiruzen, or Orochimaru, or anyone else can run from the war machine you all created turning against the leaf, proclaimed the great Toad Sage, before deciding to instill some fear into the man using his mastery over nature chakra to create a window into the past. What's this? Asked Jiraiya before seeing events from another place happening before his eyes. This is to show you what you are up against, Jiraiya. My mastery over nature chakra is at a level we never, nor shall we ever teach you in reaching. I have seen rise and the fall of your enemy twice over. Now you will see it too, commanded the great Toad Sage, with the events of Naruto as Shao Kahn waging war, in different realms being shown to the Sannin. Jiraiya watched in fascination, shock, and horror at the following events in seeing when Naruto rose to the throne of Outworld as its new emperor after the slaying of Anaga, the Dragon King. How the boy, now a demonic powerhouse, went by the name of Shao Kahn, and how the new emperor was conquering more of the realms. Only when Shao Kahn failed to defeat Earthrealm did Jiraiya feel joy at the sight of his former student failing, but it changed when the very Earthrealm warriors, who defeated Shao Kahn, were unable to kill him, and forced the emperor to retreat in a weakened state. Watching the following events intently, Jiraiya saw how his former so-called student had tricked his enemies both inside and outside of his ranks using a clone of himself into thinking he was dead. Jiraiya saw the move happen just in time to avoid the return of Anaga, the Dragon King, and recovered his strength long enough to slay him in order to take back the throne with a little help from old allies. The Toad Sannin soon saw the events following Shao Kahn's victorious return. The battle soon waged by two warring sides desiring the other's blood. And how Armageddon had almost happened on the top of the Pyramid of Argus, when fighting the Thunder God Raiden. Where are the Elder Gods, Raiden? Asked Shao Kahn, as he stood over Raiden's body, and laughed at the pathetic sight before him that was the defeated Thunder and Elder God of Earthrealm. Their pathetic mortal combat shackles me no longer, declared the Emperor after he picked up Raiden by the front of his armor before striking him several times in the face with his fists before throwing him across the top of the pyramid. They masquerade as dragons, but are mere toothless worms, mocked Shao Kahn as he walked over to Raiden's downed form, his wrath hammer in hand, and saw the Thunder God turning over before stomping a massive foot down on him. My venom spreads. It is the end of all things. Armageddon, exclaimed Shao Kahn, as his body was suddenly covered in a golden fire and bathing in its power. Stoop, Raiden yelled out, but all he got was a content sigh from the one standing over him. It is done, remarked Shao Kahn before picking Raiden up so the two could look the other square in the eyes. Your time has passed, said the Emperor before throwing Raiden back to where had first fallen near his broken amulet. Raiden notices the broken amulet on the ground and reached for the majority of them. Ages wasted in foolish resistance. Now is the dawn of my rule, declared Shao Kahn as he walked toward Raiden, who picked up the amulet pieces and began chanting in an unknown language. It made Shao Kahn laugh. Yes, pray to the worms, Raiden, as your world ends, declared Shao Kahn just before Raiden finishes his chanting and brings his wrath hammer up to bring down the killing blow with a war cry. He must win, whispered Raiden before seeing the wrath hammer come down on his head. Jiraiya saw Raiden had used his power mixed with the broken amulet to send a message via brief visions of what was to come, back to his previous self, and using those visions to prevent the future Armageddon from happening. Only for the Toad Sannin to see each change brought about one new disaster after another, until finally Shao Kahn had entered Earthrealm with an almost repeat performance of what happened on the Pyramid of Argus happening. On that tall building. Ah, Raiden, you have come to your senses, said Shao Kahn with a hint of surprise in his voice. Earthrealm's citizens suffer. Further resistance serves no purpose, replied Raiden in a humble tone while the Emperor laughed. All these ages you have fought me. You denied me my rightful claim. Not this time, said Shao Kahn before standing in front of Raiden and hit the Thunder God with a mighty uppercut that sent him flying back. It was here. Reality began to distort itself from events from another time. The Elder Gods fear me now, declared Shao Kahn before laughing and lifting Raiden up by the front of his clothes. Their pathetic mortal combat shackles me no longer, declared the Emperor after he picked up Raiden and began striking him several times in the face with his fists before throwing him across the rooftop. His badly cracked amulet falling off of him and shattering into many pieces. They masquerade as dragons, but are mere toothless worms, said Shao Kahn mockingly, while he walked towards Raiden, wrath hammer in hand, and standing over the Thunder God before putting his massive foot down. You can feel it, closing in around you. It is the end of all things, boasted Shao Kahn while seeing this realm being taken over piece by piece. Elder Gods, where are you? Why do you forsake me? Asked Raiden while looking at the heavens above and awaiting for some kind of miracle by the Elder Gods. Your time has passed, said Shao Kahn after picking Raiden up again and throwing him across the roof. Raiden was struggling to stand. Ages wasted in foolish resistance. I have won, declared Shao Kahn before he stood in front of Raiden's kneeling form. Yes, you have won, admitted Raiden, as he finally conceded defeat fully and awaiting for the killing strike once more like what happened to his future self. Now, Raiden, your world ends, declared Shao Kahn with a grin on his face, and he now brought his wrath hammer up to deliver the killing blow while letting out a war cry. Only for golden lightning to shoot down from the sky, getting the Emperor of Outworld's attention, and the Elder Gods appeared around Raiden. They entered his body and healed him of his injuries before addressing the warlord through the Thunder God's body. You violate our will, Shao Kahn. You merge realms without victory in mortal combat. Our penalty is clear, declared the combined voices of the Elder Gods through Raiden, before they got golden lightning at the Emperor, only to see it doing absolutely nothing except making Shao Kahn laugh. An anemic effort from ineffectual deities. Today I become the Elder God, declared Shao Kahn, as he was not harmed in the slightest by the attack, and saw his opponent was now going to fight him for the right to this realm. Jiraiya watched in awe as the Thunder God-possessed deity fighting Shao Kahn for the right to realm. They were in. The battle itself was vicious, brutal, and there were quite a few times when the Sannin thought the Shao Kahn would win. But in the end, the elder gods prevailed and took Shao Kahn away in his weakened state to be judged by them. Now, do you see, Jiraiya? You are fighting someone with countless years of experience in fighting and killing others. You are not fighting a weak boy with little shinobi experience gained while growing up with nothing. We are talking about an entity that has challenged many, who nearly caused the end of all things in the universe, and had no problem with bringing about Armageddon, said the great Toad Sage, with Jiraiya snapping out of his thoughts and slowly nodding. I understand, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop fighting Naruto, or whatever he calls himself these days. I will stop this prophecy from happening, and I will find a way to finally kill that brat, replied Jiraiya before he left to tell the others what he knew. That stupid boy, has he learned nothing from what we have just told him? Questioned Fukasaku in anger while Shima shook her head. I doubt it. The perverted boy never did see things properly. We only chose him to be our summoner and tolerated his past actions because we knew of his connection to the child of prophecy, replied Shima with Fukasaku sighing. All we can do is see how this plays out, remarked Fukasaku sadly, with the other toads nodding in agreement. Konoha sometime later. What? The entire shinobi division I sent to Wave Country was wiped out, yelled Tsunade with Kakashi recovering in the hospital, his body in a cast, and seeing the angry look on the woman's face. Yes, Hokage-sama? Naruto made it across the bridge, tricking Genma's team somehow, and waited until the day where a pair of protesters were about to be executed. You know the ones I'm talking about, replied Kakashi with Tsunade nodding. Tazuna's family, Tsunami, and Inari. They refused to have the name changed because they love Naruto over Sasuke, replied Tsunade with Kakashi nodding. Naruto apparently attacked Anko Iruka and their shinobi protection detail the day of the execution. He killed everyone except Anko. He somehow forced her to obey him and turn her against us. She was fighting Yamato in the Wave Daimyo's castle, and I have no doubt she was forced to tell him the location of our shinobi teams before taking them out prior to attacking the teams at my location, explained Kakashi with Tsunade gritting her teeth. What happened next? Demanded Tsunade with Kakashi wincing. Naruto fought the Anbu and myself. His punches and kicks were beyond human. They rival if not surpass yours, Tsunade-sama. I was badly beaten by his sheer power and brute strength. Yamato saved me at the last moment and we fled to the bridge thinking that we could make it back to Konoha together, but Naruto somehow made a green spear-shaped projectile made of chakra. It hit Yamato in the chest and killed him soon within moments of it piercing him. After that, Naruto turned his attention to me and he let me go, said Kakashi with Tsunade, narrowing her eyes at him. But not without a price, concluded Tsunade in a knowing tone with Kakashi nodding. Yes. My body being badly damaged, the loss of my Sharingan eye, and the simple fact he wanted you to know where he was upon his return our world to be the price of my life being spared, said Kakashi in shame at the end, knowing it cost him so much to come back to Konoha. You really messed this up, Kakashi. The invasion was supposed to be simple. The Wave Daimyo was dead, Tazuna was dead, the rest of his family was going to follow, and the people of Wave had no one left to oppose us. You had superior numbers, skills, and that Sharingan eye at your disposal. How could you have possibly fucked up our invasion? Demanded Tsunade with Kakashi, wincing again at her threatening tone. I underestimated Naruto. His skill, his power, and the sheer brutality behind his attacks were overwhelming. I've never faced anything like it before, replied Kakashi with the Hokage not looking pleased. When you've fully recovered from your injuries, I expect you to be ready for a mission to kill that damn brat, and if you fail me when the time comes to deliver, you will be executed, said Tsunade before she left the room. Your failure is indeed most troubling, remarked Danzo, as he had been listening from the shadows of the room, and was no longer the old man walking with a cane. Thanks to Minato's Jinchuriki powers, and Tsunade's medical skills making him the first person to have his youth restored, of course. Though the Warhawk still kept his various appendages a secret from Sasuke, since the Uchiha would not take kindly to his clan's bloodline being used by those outside of it. Kakashi was supposed to be the official exception. He's not human anymore. He even said his name is no longer Uzumaki Naruto, said Kakashi with Danzo scoffing. It shouldn't matter what his name is now, Kakashi, or if he is not human anymore. You are a Konoha shinobi, a student of the Yondaime Hokage himself. If the boy has become a demon, you should have subdued and brought him back to face justice. That boy was meant to be our weapon and be thrown away on our terms, not escape and come back to get his petty revenge on us for doing what is right to do. Humans rule this world, always have and always will. You are human, Kakashi, and therefore belong to the superior race. You got cocky, and that was what cost you your Sharingan. Fortunately, I do have some spares in storage you can use, and be retrained in using for when the time comes to kill if not capture the demon, stated Danzo with Kakashi, not looking convinced. Hokage-sama wanted me healed and out the village gates the moment I'm healthy to kill Naruto before he gains a foothold in Wave Country, explained Kakashi with Danzo now sporting a smirk on his face. I'll talk to her. She knows about my Sharingan eyes in storage, and knows you have a far better chance of winning with one of the eyes than without it, countered Danzo before he left the room. Hyuga Clan Compound. Hinata moved with deadly precision in her gentle fist in the practicing area of her home, as she used her style of the clan taijutsu, and manipulated the water around her. She had long since perfected it, honed the affinity for water long before today, and finished her training in a way that could only considered a flawless artistic stance. After Naruto had escaped death, Hinata trained vigorously, going against all the Hyuga clan traditions by developing this form of gentle fist. And her father, along with the clan elders, tried to put a stop to it. They felt her form of gentle fist was an abomination, since it used flexibility rather than attacking in a straight line like all other Hyuga clan members did, that it should not be changed just because of one weak Hyuga could not use it. So Hinata did the only thing possible in a situation like this that only Naruto would think of doing if his back was against the wall. She turned the Hyuga clan traditions against the Hyuga clan. How? She challenged her father, Neji, and Hanabi in a 3-on-1 fight. Their own respective choice in gentle fist versus her own flexible style, with the winner naming terms of the prize upon victory. By the Hyuga clan's own laws, if Hinata won her match, no one in the clan could stop her from doing what she wanted, and if they did, the cage bird seal would be placed on the offending party. And if the person was a branch family member, they would be killed with the very seal branded on them before the entire clan, and then throw the body away into the forest of death for the animals to eat. No burial. Hayashi, in his arrogance, had believed that his daughter, his nephew, and himself, of course, were going into this battle with a win already in their favor. His youngest daughter was just like him. Neji was a prodigy in gentle fist, and was just like Hayashi's brother Hisashi in terms of skill. He had told Hinata that should she lose, the cage bird seal would be put on her, and altered so it could be used by the branch family so Neji could use it on her if he wished. Neji himself had smirked at the idea, as well as Hanabi, since neither liked Hinata for what they believed was a weak woman within the clan. They were in for quite the surprise. Hinata showed her true potential before the entire Hyuga clan, which the elders in their infinite wisdom had commanded to witness what they believed would be the Hyuga girl's fault. To see her be made an example of before the rest of the clan regarding what happens to those foolish enough to go against the Hyuga clan and its traditions. They had fully expected Hinata to fail, shaming the girl for all time, and treat her like the piece of trash they all felt was the position that would be her new life. How wrong they were. Hinata had unleashed her skills in gentle fist, using her new style in such a way that it threw Hayashi through a wall, and put Neji into the ground with enough force to cause a massive crater. As for Hanabi, She was left skidding on the ground, a broken, bleeding mess, before Hinata walked over to the barely conscious Hayashi and declared that as the victor of the spar, she would claim what was rightfully hers in terms of victory. First, she declared that her style would not be locked away or considered shameful for a Hyuga to use. She further explained to the rest of the Hyuga clan watching that the reason her gentle fist style is different is because its connection to those with a water affinity, and the usual Hyuga gentle fist style required those with earth affinity. That in rare cases, some Hyuga, namely the women, have a developed such affinity, and thus they could not use the traditional gentle fist style. Hinata further explained that those Hyuga women with such affinity were either killed mysteriously or had the cage bird seal placed on their heads before being sent to the lowest ranked branch of the clan to suffer for their supposed weakness. Second, Hinata declared herself a free Hyuga and had the right to marry whoever she wished without the clan head or anyone else deciding for her. In the recent years, the girl turning into beautiful woman knew of her father trying to marry her off to some nobles of different ages and so-called nobility. Some were her age, others a few years younger, and more than a few of them were old enough to be her grandfather. If she was going to marry anybody, it would be one of her own choosing, and it would be someone who too old to perform sexually without help from a pill. Third, she decreed that as a free Hyuga, the cage bird seal could not, and would not be put on her no matter what the situation. Hinata would only have it placed on her forehead willingly and without any form of outside interference on her decision. Not that she was expecting to do that anytime soon, but it was done to make them all believe a situation may one day come where they could do it. After finishing her daily training regimen, Hinata walked to her room, but was stopped by the scowling form of Hyuga Neji, and she scowled back. "Hinata-sama," said Neji, though it was strictly formal with no affection or love of a big brother. "Neji," replied Hinata curtly, but she honestly didn't put any form of respect behind it, and had no intention to in the near future. "Hayashi-sama demands your presence in his office," said Neji with Hinata scowling. "He demands? You should know by now, Neji, that my so-called father can no longer demand anything from me. Or have you forgotten?" replied Hinata icily, with Neji's eye twitching at that last part. "No, I have not forgotten," answered Neji, while Hinata nodded and walked by her cousin before she stopped to give him a cold look. "Just remember, Neji, I am not the same weak girl you brutally beat during the Chunin exam. Preliminaries all those years ago. I will not be intimidated by the likes of you, father, or the clan as a whole ever again. If you so much as leak killer intent toward my direction again like you did just now, I'll kill you using the cage bird seal you hate so much," whispered Hinata with Neji narrowing his eyes at her. "You're bluffing. You hate the seal more than I do. You wouldn't dare," whispered Neji before he felt a stabbing pain on his forehead, and he gasped before falling to his knees. "I do hate the cage bird seal, dear cousin, but at the moment I hate you even more, and will not let the once close blood ties between us stand in my way of carving out my own path in life. Perhaps if you had not strayed from the path Naruto showed you years ago, or betrayed him for what he held, you would truly see things with eyes wide open, as it stand now." "Your eyes are wide shut," whispered Hinata, while her hand was on the sign to cause pain to the Neji when she channeled chakra into it. "She is serious. She would really use it on me," thought Neji before the pain stopped, and he collapsed onto the ground. "Remember your place, Neji. You are beneath me in gentle fist, and you are beneath me in status within the clan. Even my status is as one currently disliked by those within our so-called family," said Hinata, before walked around the corner and was gone from sight. When Hinata reached her father's office, she entered cautiously, slowly, and used her eyes before opening it fully to ensure what lay beyond the door wasn't a trap. From what she could see, Hayashi was in his office, waiting for Hinata, and looked like his usual stoic Hyuga self. It made Hinata believe her father was part granite. "I see you showed up. Good. You can still take orders," remarked Hayashi while Hinata entered the room and shut the door. I came here because I wanted to father, not because I had to come. I could have easily ignored your request and gone about the rest of my day, uninterrupted, countered Hinata with Hayashi grimacing since that was true. Regardless, we are going to discuss your future within the clan. Namely, you being the new clan head in a few years and marrying someone worthy of being your husband, said Hayashi with Hinata narrowing her eyes at him. You mean an arranged marriage? I am free from such things, father. Remember, that was one of the conditions you and the elders have to honor after my victory to keep my style of gentle fist from being discarded as something of an oddity in the eyes of the clan, replied Hinata with Hayashi, scowling at her. Be as that may, you will have to settle down and marry someone to become the new clan head of the Hyuga clan. It's what you wanted from the start, correct? So you can try changing the clan for the better, questioned Hayashi with Hinata shaking her head. At one point, I did want to change the clan because there were people in it worth saving, and I thought they would return the favor one day. Now I see these people in this clan for what they are, and it disgusts me. I do not want to be clan head. Give it to Hanabi. She will do a fine job in succeeding you in bringing about increased division from within this family. Or have you forgotten how she repeatedly abuses the cage bird seal almost every chance she gets? Challenged Hinata with Hayashi grimacing at the truth, despite his stubbornness telling him she was young, and it was just a phase. Hanabi did abuse the cage bird seal whenever the moment suited her. She used it like a child uses her favorite toy to bring about happiness when sad and wants to feel better. The problem with that was the fact a branch family member's suffering was Hanabi's new favorite joy, and she had no problem making that fact known, while laughing at the sight of one in perpetual agony. She activated the cage bird seal on anyone that would bring about amusement, and it didn't matter the age either. Hayashi had once witnessed his youngest using it on a child who had received it less than 3 hours after it had been put on. The poor boy had cried and wailed while pleading for Hanabi to stop, but she didn't until the child had died from the cage bird seal, scrambling his brain into mush. The elders, of course, didn't care since it brought about fear aimed at the branch family, so they didn't get any ideas in breaking free from their chains. As for Hayashi, he was filled with too much stubbornness and pride as a Hyuga to see his youngest had become a psycho within her own clan. Hanabi could kill off every branch family member from youngest to old, and more than likely get away with it. Your sister simply reminds the branch family of their place, Hinata. They have become slack in their duties, countered Hayashi with Hinata scoffing at his excuse. You wouldn't be saying that if Uncle Hazashi were alive to see this, countered Hinata with Hayashi's eyes widen and were filled with a flash of rage. Don't you speak to me about my brother like that again, Hinata. You were partially to blame for that incident by being too weak to fight off your kidnapper, Hayashi shot back while Hinata looked unimpressed. And I suppose you were strong enough to fight off a fully trained Junin level shinobi at the age of 3, questioned Hinata with Hayashi scowled further. I would have at least done better than you at that age, Hayashi shot back. That's a matter of opinion, father. You'll have to forgive me for believing yours is a bit biased. Perhaps if you were to somehow turn back into a 3-year-old again, I could try arranging a kidnapping scenario where a Junin takes you from the house in the middle of the night, and while you slept unaware of being taken until it's too late, replied Hinata with Hayashi's scowl increasing. I am not here to argue about the past. I am here to discuss your future. While Hanabi is indeed acting as a true clan head should, you are regrettably stronger, and thus have the might to lead, said Hayashi, while Hinata shaking her head. Regrettably, 10 years ago, you called me weak, and wasn't worth your time. That I was worthless not only as your daughter, but as your heiress, and Hanabi was better suited in my place. I did everything to make myself stronger, and prove I was worthy in your eyes. Now that I am stronger, you regret the idea of me being strong. Does that even make sense? Questioned Hinata with Hayashi sighing. This is regrettable because at one point, Hanabi was the only one worthy of being clan head. Now, there are 2 worthy, and there can only be one true successor. If you do not take the title of clan head when the time is right, Hanabi will in your place, and you will be made a branch member," replied Hiyashi with Hinata's eyes narrowing. "We had a deal, father, one that the Hyuga clan as a whole must accept. Or would you prefer to just discard clan traditions entirely, knowing what would happen if you did?" asked Hinata with Hayashi gritting his teeth, knowing it would cause internal chaos and anarchy within the Hyuga clan. "You would be doing this to save the clan from a possible civil war. The branch family members may try something should Hanabi be made clan head," countered Hayashi with Hinata shrugging. "You should have thought of that before raising such a cruel daughter, who uses the cage bird seal like it was an extension of herself, and enjoys seeing the suffering of others. Besides, there is a good chance a civil war will happen within the clan if I am made clan head in Hanabi's place." Hinata shot back while Hayashi secretly wanted to scream at the obvious truth laid out before him. Damned if he chose one daughter, and damned if he chose the other. "An iron fist is required when running such a noble clan, Hinata," said Hayashi, though the strength behind his words failed him. "Some nobility. We act like we're better than everyone else, yet enslave half of our clan, and treat them like lowly servants meant to die when we say they can. Should they get out of line or even move a finger out of place, we use the cage bird seal on them, and watch them struggle to live while they beg for forgiveness. That's hardly strong grounds for declaring our nobility. Maybe we should rename our fighting style and call it Iron Fist to match our perceptions of how a clan head should govern this noble clan," replied Hinata, as she walked out of the room and didn't look back. "God damn it," whispered Hayashi in defeat, knowing full well Hinata was right. Hokage Tower meeting room. "So the demon brat has truly become a demon," remarked Homura, as he, along with the others among Konoha's governing body, were in the room when Jiraiya gave his report about what the Great Toad Sage showed him. "Yes, and a strong one at that. He was incredibly strong before taking Minato's half of the Kyuubi's chakra," explained Jiraiya with Koharu, Homura, Tsunade, Hiruzen, Danzo, Kushina, Shizune, and a wheeled in Minato listening intently. "And now with the other half in him, my son will no doubt become even harder to kill, or possibly control depending on what methods we use," added Minato while still feeling drained, but had heard about the meeting, and wished to attend. "But how do we control him? The Sharingan eyes have the power to control the Bijou, but Uchiha Sasuke hasn't acquired the next level to make that happen," said Koharu, with the others wondering the same thing. "The boy doesn't play well with others. He never has since the Uchiha massacre. Sasuke may be a prodigy in terms of being a shinobi, but he's not what you call social, or one to embrace friendship. He sees everyone around him to be either weak or a stepping stone to getting power to kill his brother," said Hiruzen while giving Danzo a pointed look that the Warhawk ignored. "He would do better under my command with Root if it were up to me. Emotions make you weak when being a shinobi," remarked Danzo, while no one in the room agreed with that statement. "Says the man who is at the leading the drones. You wouldn't be saying that if you were one of them," remarked Kushina, as she never liked Danzo's method since its supposed strength in how they functioned was also its weakness, and had one person at the top giving them orders. And Abdurrahim would describe Root Shinobi as basically being drones serving the queen of the proverbial hive, and doing what was in the best interest of the hive. However, if the queen were taken out, whether by old age, natural, or other means of a life ending, the drones would simply stop functioning. They lacked free will to think on their own, or even choose what to do next if such a scenario happened where their leader perished. If it did happen, the enemy could swoop in and kill the mindless drones with ease. Which was probably why Danzo preferred to stay hidden in the shadows and always sent his drones out while doing nothing himself. Despite his enhancements, he kept hidden from the public. While Konoha as a whole wouldn't care if given an excuse like saving all the Sharingan eyes from being lost in their use, Sasuke would not be so reasonable should he learn the truth and get violent over the issue. It could divide Konoha and maybe even have some of its shinobi question their loyalty to the governing body running the village. "How I command Root is none of your business, Kushina. Perhaps you should have done everyone in Konoha a favor and simply killed off your son shortly after his birth before sealing the QB inside Naruto. Rather than doing the opposite, Danzo retorted while Kushina bristled at the insult. Says the man who is afraid of death and refuses to openly get his hands dirty like the rest of us, remarked Hiruzen with Danzo shooting him a glare now. Enough. How exactly do we deal with Naruto? Or Shao Kahn, as he has decided to call himself, asked Tsunade while everyone began to think up ideas. Assassination is our best bet, but it must be done on our terms. We have to lure him into a situation where his death is practically guaranteed, suggested Koharu, as she saw the others nodding in agreement. How? The demon surely won't leave his country for anything, unless it is worth leaving. Most daimyos these days are politicians, not warriors. That generation of feudal lords died by the end of the Second Shinobi War, said Homura, since the Second Shinobi War was what got the attention of the daimyos and their successors in seeing the value of using shinobi to fight battles, rather than rely on their armies. That's the problem. Naruto isn't some snooty barely lifts a finger and doing hard labor kind of daimyo we are so used to these days. He's fought in battles, wars, killed people, defied gods, and nearly brought about Armageddon. If we do set a trap for him, we must be damn sure there are no screw-ups, and he doesn't escape, replied Jiraiya, knowing that the prophecy could still be cast down since it was not in full swing, yet like it once was before Naruto's escape from Konoha. What about Anko? How do we deal with her? Asked Tsunade, knowing that was an issue. Based on Kakashi's report, Naruto used his power to extract half of what Orochimaru used for his curse seal, and put a piece of himself into it, so she is bound to him. As such, Anko has become a liability since she knows much from her time here in Konoha. And we need to consider cutting ties to all loose ends, remarked Minato with Tsunade nodding. And so did the others. So we kill her too. Even if we free her from this new seal Naruto placed on her, it's clear Anko will have done too much damage by that point, and we can't allow such a liability to return to our ranks. If we can capture her alive, we will until all the information she can give us has been extracted, and then we'll end her life quickly as a reward for years of loyal service to Konoha, ordered Tsunade with no one arguing about it since they had no reason to argue. What do we tell those close to her? She did have some friends outside of her love life with Iruka, remarked Kushina, knowing there would be questions being asked soon. We'll tell them on a need-to-know basis. For now, focus on the newly made daimyo that is my son, and see if we can't force him into a situation where we can prevent this altered prophecy from gaining momentum, commanded Minato with the others nodding. Sasuke must be told about this. He'll come to me for more training, and I can gain more favor to the point where the brat will come to me over the others, thought Danzo, as he decided to pay Uchiha Sasuke a visit and see what the boy-turned-man was up to right now. Konoha Training Ground number 14. It didn't take long for word to spread about Naruto's return, under the name of Shao Kahn, thanks to the blabber mouthing gossip network of Yamanaka Ino, who heard it from one Haruno Sakura, who was with Sasuke when Danzo came to see him, and told the Uchiha the news. Naturally, it sent the village into a frenzy, almost panic-like even, and it made the rookies feel a need to meet in order to discuss this amongst themselves, while their senseis did the same. They knew Naruto had made that promise of revenge, and if there was one thing they knew about Uzumaki Naruto that was consistent with the dead last at the academy, was that he always kept his promises. So Naruto's back, like he promised. Troublesome blonde, remarked Shikamaru while sitting against a tree and admiring the clouds. From what we heard regarding his new appearance, I don't think he's a blonde anymore, Shikamaru. The helmet he wears may imply disfigurement, replied Shino, as he was standing across from him, and saw the Nara shrug his shoulders. He's still troublesome, replied Shikamaru, while Shino said nothing. He wiped out the entire invasion force in Wave Country. Kakashi was the only survivor because Naruto spared him to deliver news of his return, said Kiba, as he had heard it from his mother, who heard it from Kakashi. The entire invasion force, Iruka-sensei, was selected for that mission, stated Shikamaru, with a frown while Shino, nodding. According to what Kakashi told my mother, Iruka-sensei was killed by Naruto himself when he arrived in Wave, replied Kiba, with the rookies and guys team wincing, since the man had been their teacher, since they were children. He needs to be stopped, exclaimed Tenten angrily. Agreed. But how? He took down Hate, Kakashi, Iruka, and just about every Konoha shinobi we had over there. All of them strong, Choji reminded them while scratching his head. Anyway, we can, said Shikamaru while the others nodded. If I could get close enough to him, I could use my gentle fist taijutsu and strike his heart to cause it to explode, offered Neji while Shikamaru thought it over. It could work. It would have to be a team effort. I would have to hold him down long enough for you to deliver the necessary strikes. Even before we did that, the rest of us would have to get involved in some way to distract him so he wouldn't see my shadow possession jutsu work on him, replied Shikamaru, while Sasuke sneered at them. No one is going to kill Naruto but me. He's my ticket to achieving the next stage of my Sharingan eyes. I will be able to fight on even terms with Itachi, said Sasuke in a hotly and demanding manner. Yeah. Sasuke would have done it back then too if it wasn't for his injuries caused by the baka, said Sakura while Sasuke glared at her. Shut up, Sakura. I don't need your opinion on this. Just stand there and nod when I say something. Don't talk. Just nod, commanded Sasuke with Sakura flinching, but obeying all the same, and just nodded happily. While many women were jealous of Sakura dating the last Uchiha, they had no idea just how bad the relationship between them really was, and any sane other woman would have left Sasuke in a heartbeat. Why? First, the man was cold to Sakura unless he wanted something from her, and treated the pink-haired woman like she was an idiot. Under more normal circumstance, Sasuke wouldn't date one of his fangirls, but sadly for him, out of all his fangirls, Sakura was the strongest, and his most devoted. Most had moved on from what they considered a school crush or phase in their lives before finding a man to be their silver medal. Second, the Uchiha had the personality when it came to romance of a hard-ass drill sergeant, who would sooner cut off his arm than wrap said limb over the shoulder of the woman he was with. The Uchiha only tolerated Sakura's presence because she obeyed him and wouldn't tell anyone anything unless he allowed it. She was the ideal housewife for an Uchiha male with the exception of being Chunin, and only because she passed a special written exam about various shinobi-related things. The third thing that would have made Sasuke deadweight as boyfriend material was his sexual intimacy with a woman. Was not as manly as many in Konoha would like to believe. Everyone had just assumed because he was from the Uchiha clan, Sasuke would be well endowed and be able to satisfy any woman he desired, and be more than capable of reviving his clan. They were wrong. Sasuke was in terms of greatness, in terms of a male's pride, if you were to use Inuzuka clan terms, was a runt among his late clan members, and was not a great stallion in bed. Sakura let everyone think he was after she told just everyone about how they had their first time together. She had told everyone how he took her in bed, his hands everywhere on her body, touching in just the right places, and how she screamed his name all night long in his bedroom. What no one knew was that Sakura lied the entire time she bragged about her sexual relations with Sasuke. Whether she did it to try covering up the Uchiha's own inadequacies, or simply due to the girl's own delusions of the Uchiha actually being good yet she was really bad being unknown. But the secret fact remained, Sasuke was not the stallion. Sakura made him out to be in order to gain jealous looks from the women around her that were once rivals for the Uchiha's attention. The first time they were together, Sasuke called the shots on how they were going to do it, from commanding Sakura to strip to just bend over, and take it when he thrust into her without any chance to prepare. A few seconds of squirming awkwardly behind her later, Sasuke thrusts into Sakura while the girl wonders if he's fully in yet, but keeps her mouth shut before the fantasy of being made love to plays in her head, and has the belief the night is still young. That was shattered within 5 seconds of her little fantasy when Sasuke shot his load into her, fell onto the bed, and went to sleep before the pink-haired girl blinked in shock. At first she was assuming he wanted to do more from a new position, but hearing him snore and stay limp told Sakura otherwise. Even worse, the girl's already fangirl-based mind made her believe that the problem was herself, and needed to improve in order to keep Sasuke interested. In Sakura's mind, the more interested Sasuke was in her, the longer he would last and be able to satisfy her in return. That had yet to happen in her eyes, mind, and loins. In any case, we need to prepare ourselves for the fight that will happen, and be prepared to kill him, said Shikamaru, the others nodding. I'm ready now. Just give me a chance and I'll send a kunai right between or into one of his eyes, replied Tenten, since she wanted to hurt Naruto after hearing from Tsunade about how much of a monster he secretly was. Her idol was never wrong when it came to judging people, so why would Tenten question the Gondam Hokage now? As for Hinata, she watched them all, listening to what the other Leaf Shinobi around her age would do to Naruto if they had the chance, and was silently seething at what she had heard. Naruto had done so much for Konoha, brought in so many powerful allies, clients, and defended the village despite the fact its overall populace would sooner kill him just for breathing within its walls. When she heard his promise, Hinata knew that Konoha would one day fall, despite the return of the Yondaime, his wife, the Sandaime, and even Orochimaru, of all people. Hinata knew when an Uzumaki made a promise it was kept no matter what, and not even death itself stood in the way such a vow. And Naruto did not disappoint in that regard. He was back from wherever his bloodied body had been for the past 6 years. Now Naruto was bigger, stronger, and far more determined than ever. It seemed to bust some heads if what she heard happened to the invasion force sent to Wave Country was any indication. But what did that mean for her? Did he even remember her? When he promised everyone in Konoha would be wiped out, did Naruto also include her in that? Hinata hoped not. While she was positive he did not hate her, there was no telling what his frame of mind was, and if Naruto would lash out at her. She never was able to know what Naruto was thinking when growing up, and Hinata felt she needed to see him again to find out.
Hinata realized that the best way to do that was to leave Konoha. Yes, she would leave the village and head to Wave Country to seek out the boy now grown man of a crush. A man who, when growing up, had showed her that you had to keep fighting for what was yours no matter what. To take hits and hit back when it mattered. To fight back no matter how big the odds, the enemy, and the numbers that went with them. Hinata saw Naruto come from nothing, live off of nothing, and survive against the dark abyss with nothing. She admired Naruto's courage, his determination, and inner strength that most people did not have these days since no one had suffered like he had suffered. And for what? For being a Jinchuriki, she didn't care about that. Naruto was not some monster. If he had been a monster, the village would not be standing, and she wouldn't be alive right now.
Hinata knew who the real monsters and demons were, and some of them were standing in front of her. I'm coming, Naruto-kun. I just hope you don't hate me like you do the others in Konoha. I do wonder what you will do when you see me again after so long. Will I be hugged? Or will I be killed? Will our reunion be joyous? Or will it, and I by extension? Be damned, thought Hinata as she walked away from the group, not wanting to hear any more, and decided to go for a walk around Konoha to clear her mind. She didn't notice Shikamaru was looking at her from the corner of his eyes with a hint of suspicion in them. Author. Chapter 6. An Alliance Made Whole. I'll get right to the point. This war with Konoha for the past 6 years has been killing us and killing us badly. Both in our numbers with our shinobi forces and financially in terms of bleeding us dry. We need a plan to turn this war around, said the Raikage known as a while, sitting in a room where a secret meeting between 3 other cages and 1 female daimyo were currently residing. It's not easy fighting against the former Yondaime Hokage on the battlefield. I should know since Iwa has suffered greatly at his hands. Not to mention Jiraiya's of the Sannin spy network, Hiruzen coming back from the dead, and in his prime no less. There is also the fact Konoha has 2 Uzumakis on their side, with the ability to suppress a Bijou, which means our Jinchuriki are useless against them, said the Sandaime Chuchikage sadly, as he knew Iwa wanted blood for what Minato did in the last war, and were willing to do whatever it took to get it. But the old man still wondered about the risks. Not to mention they have been expanding and taking over weaker countries that cannot defend themselves, while the Fire Daimyo supports them under false evidence. Jiraiya's spy network provides to justify each invasion. They recently went after to Wave Country over the name of a bridge that connects to the mainland. Added to Rumi Mei, as she had been trying to get Kiri up to speed since ending the Civil War, and found it increasingly difficult with pressure from Fire Country embargoing Water Country on bogus charges of pirating their trading ships. Fire. Country has been making a mess of things for my country in terms of trade, as well as heavily taxing the movie studios I work with for my movies. Add to the fact they have betrayed. My country's hero is one of the reasons I have supported your fight against them for their transgressions, replied Spring Daimyo. Koyuki, who had practically demanded the Fire Daimyo provide an explanation for Konoha's actions against Naruto, but the man refused to give one. The Fire Daimyo acted like a pompous ass, waving that fan at himself like he was trying to stop sweating, even though there was barely any heat in the room when they spoke. The man was a dim-witted idiot who only saw what was in front of him, and what his much smarter advisors, who were on Konoha's payroll, told the Fire Daimyo what they wanted the man to know. The advisors whispered into the Fire Daimyo's ear for one moment, and the feudal lord told Koyuki that neither he nor Konoha had to give her any explanation regarding Naruto. That her demanding one regarding a weak, insignificant peasant was unprofessional for someone of Koyuki's station as a daimyo, and she should leave before things between their countries got hostile. I know what you mean, Koyuki-sama. Naruto was my first friend. He suffered more than I ever could have as a Jinchuriki. Even when he completed the mission assigned to him, the Leaf set out to kill Naruto and make sure he never achieved his dreams, replied Gaara, as he had worked to prove himself to Suna, and that he was worthy of being called its Kazekage. That aside, we need to find a way to turn this war in our favor. We are currently stuck in a stalemate with them. Barely, I might add. We were fortunate the Yondaime Hokage's sudden disappearance just a few days ago allowed Tsuchikage-sama's Iwa shinobi to take a key defensive position. Konoha has kept theirs for years, explained the Raikage. It was a crucial outpost that protected their trade routes and resources they are using to fund their war machine. Taking it has allowed us to gain equal footing against Konoha, but for how long is the real problem, said the Tsuchikage, knowing the position could be taken away from Iwa at any moment. Agreed. But the Yondaime Hokage or anyone of the highly skilled shinobi around his level won't let this slide. Also, there is also the fact that quite a few old Konoha shinobi from my generation have regained their youth, and Orochimaru has been slithering about, looking for test subjects near each of our territories, replied Mei, since she knew Konoha was not one to let defeats go without paying a price for it. Which is why we must consider a temporary truce with them, replied the Tsuchikage, as he was considered the fence-sitter for a reason, and this was one of them. A temporary truce, now? We have a chance to push forward, protested angrily at the Sandaime Tsuchikage. I know, but we also risk overstepping our reach, and could cost us more. The position my forces took recently is not ready to be defended by a retaliating force. You just said it yourself, Raikage-sama. This war is killing us badly, and we have no way of pressing the attack. All we've done up until now has allowed us equal footing with Konoha for this alliance as a whole. Konoha has Taki on its side, which I recall has a Jinchuriki under its command, and one of the more higher level of tails. Konoha must know what we do, and that we are at a stalemate with them, with neither side having room to push forward. All of you know it's true, replied the Tsuchikage, with the others nodding. If we could gain some kind of asset, something powerful, or maybe a new ally on our side, we could make that push to break the deadlock, replied Mei, as she knew such a miracle was practically non-existent, since Konoha seemed to have quality. and quantity in terms of shinobi now that their old veterans were somehow young again. I might be able to help with that, came a voice from the shadows, and a figure appeared from it, while the three cages stood on edge while Koyuki tense, when she stood while her two samurai bodyguards had swords drawn. "Who are you? How did you find us?" demanded Sabaku no Gara, as he saw the figure smirk despite the shadows covering the large form with red-crimson eyes. "I'm hurt, Gara. I would think you of all people would recognize someone who knocked almost quite literally some sense into you all those years ago," remarked the figure, as he came further into the light of the dark meeting room and smiled at his old friend. "Naruto?" asked Gara, as he saw his friend had changed into this massive demonic giant of a man standing before him, and the Kazekage wondered how this was possible. "It's been a long time, Gara. You've become Kazekage, I see. You became what I once wanted in Konoha." "I'm glad," said the former emperor of Outworld, now turned daimyo of Wave Country, with the robes to match underneath his usual armored attire. "This is Uzumaki Naruto, this well-muscled hunk of a man. Sure, he's got crimson eyes and a demonic feel to him, but still, there is a man underneath those robes," thought Mei, as she started to have dreamy ideas regarding this man, and her bodyguard Ao was now sweating from what he was seeing. "She's getting that look again. Not only that, but my eye hurts when looking at this man, and the power he's generating is enormous," thought Ale worriedly while seeing the man claiming to be Uzumaki Naruto walk up to the round meeting table before looking at everyone in this room. "How did you find us?" "This meeting and its location is a secret," questioned A, as he saw the figure glance at him, and then at the Chuchikage. "Jiraiya's spy network knows more. Then you give them credit for Raikage of Kumo. And for the record, I no longer go by the name of Uzumaki Naruto. It's Shao Kahn now," said Shao Kahn while glancing at Koyuki, who walked over to him and stared into his eyes. "You have been through a lot since that eventful day when Konoha betrayed your trust and tried to have you executed. I can see it in your eyes," remarked Koyuki, while Shao Kahn nodding. "More than you know? I have done things that are unbefitting of my status as a hero to you and Spring Country," replied Shao Kahn before he was surprised to find her smiling at him and hugging the man with her hands barely reaching around his back. No one but Ao noticed the dark aura growing around Mei. "Status, unbefitting, marriage, in spring," thought Mei while Ao was wondering how to defuse this situation. "Nizukage-sama, I don't," said Ao before Mei quickly looked at him. "Ao, shut up or I will kill you," said Mei in a sweet sickly tone that told Ao that he was going to die, should her words were ignored. "I don't care what you've done since your departure. You are still Naruto-kun to me. You are still the hero of Spring Country to me," whispered Koyuki, while Shao Kahn closed his eyes and felt something in him pulse beneath the darkness that was what he was now from the magic of the Dragon King. "I thank you for that. It is not easy being what I am and being loved for the events of my former life. They tend to contradict each other and clash within my mind," replied Shao Kahn, as he turned to the Raikage and saw the man's two Jinchuriki were beside him. "Answer my question. How did you know about this meeting in this exact location?" "Jiraiya's spy network is good, but not that good," remarked A, as he saw Shao Kahn nodding in agreement. "I was actually on my way to Suna when I came upon a large squad of Konoha, Anbu ready for a full-blown battle with one or a group of powerful people. After my newly recruited and deadly bodyguard and I killed most of them, we interrogated the Anbu captain for information. We eventually learned that Jiraiya had his spy network feed him information about this meeting from one of his sources." "From within your own ranks, Raikage-sama," replied Shao Kahn with a looking ready to throw something big and heavy at something. "Impossible! I made this meeting top secret. I changed the location twice. The only people who could have known of the change in Kumo was myself, B, and Yugito," protested Eweth, Shao Kahn smirking. "You are forgetting the messenger used to deliver the messages to the other cages and Koyuki here of the changes. replied Shao Kahn with a sputtering at first, but stopped when realization dawned on him and grit his teeth. Why would Wi-Fi want to betray us? He's been loyal to Kumo for years, questioned Yugito, as she didn't understand, and it was clear only Shao Kahn knew. Your messenger had racked up a few heavy debts when on missions to other countries after he completed them, and few of the gambling dens are secretly owned by Jiraiya of the Sannin under false names. Jiraiya was squeezing your subordinate for money and was promising to cancel the debts racked up in exchange for his cooperation in providing the Leaf with crucial information that could shift the war further in their favor, answered Shao Kahn with a looking pissed off right now. He sold us out to clear his debts. I'll kill him for that, exclaimed angrily, while Shao Kahn let out a small chuckle. I already did. I also killed the Konoha shinobi sent to tell Wi-Fi that his debts had been cleared off. And by cleared off, I mean they were paid. With his life? Replied Shao Kahn with a calming down when he heard that. So Konoha finds out about this meeting, kills everyone here in a surprise attack, and then they kill the spy they were pressuring for information. With our deaths, they could crush our villages and countries in the ensuing chaos and covering up their tracks in what they did in one swift, decisive action following the next, said the Tsuchikage with Shao Kahn nodding. And thus making Konoha uncontested among the remaining shinobi villages, which would be all the minor ones, and even then their days would be numbered, replied Shao Kahn, since he knew that eventually Konoha would target the minor ones too. It was just a matter of time. You came to offer your support in the war, Gaara surmised with Shao Kahn nodding. Your fight is my fight, Gaara. Your enemy is my enemy. We each have been scorned by Konoha in some shape or form. They act like the world belongs to them, that they should rule it. But they are wrong. So very wrong, replied Shao Kahn, with that last part coming out as a whisper. While your services aren't unwelcome, we need more than just yourself. We need to deal a devastating blow to Konoha to further enforce their position in the world is weakened, said the Sandim Tsuchikage while Shao Kahn laughed. For one, the Yondaime Hokage is no longer able to turn back time on the old shinobi of Konoha. With Senju Tsunade's help, I successfully ripped the half of Kyuubi he had sealed inside of him from his body and merged it with myself. His strength and chakra reserves have been diminished considerably, so he's no longer able to fight at such a devastating level. I also killed a large invasion force that was occupying Wave Country and became its new daimyo. Does that help? Offered Shao Kahn with the Tsuchikage along with the others looking on in shock at this news. So that's how Minato did it. He used his half of Kyuubi and Tsunade's medical skills in using chakra to reverse the aging process, said a while, happy to hear his Minato had taken a major hit. So it is true. I had unconfirmed reports of Wave Country being liberated from Konoha's forces, stated Gaara while he was happy to hear that Naruto was able to save the people there yet again and was rewarded for it by becoming their new leader. This is a good step forward, but Wave Country doesn't have an army, and it won't be long before Konoha launches another attack on them, remarked Mei while she saw Shao Kahn turn to look at her, and felt her cheeks go slightly warm at the sight of his muscled body being defined behind his clothes. Which is why I'm asking each of you to provide me with a sizable shinobi force to help defend Wave Country from future invasions. Konoha knows that my country has plenty of resources that, under their control, could help provide a major form of income for them to fund their war machine while getting a key foothold for a potential navy base to build a fleet to invade Water Country, said Shao Kahn, with the 3 cages and female daimyo in the room, looked surprised by this. And you know this how? Asked since he could see one part of what Shao Kahn told them to be possible, since everyone knew Wave Country, but found the other part a little far-fetched. Because that was one of the reasons the invasion force attacked Wave Country in the first place. Isn't that right, Anko? Asked Shao Kahn while motioning her forward, and the woman stepped out of the shadows. She is from Konoha, stated Gaara with narrowed eyes, and his sand shot from his gourd toward the woman to crush her with it. The woman had caused many of his shinobi to suffer before dying. Not to mention, she no doubt hurt Naruto before the day of his execution. only for Shao Kahn to summon his wrath hammer to his hand and bring it down on the sand to cause dispersal to the shock of everyone in the room. Anko may have belonged to Konoha at one point, Gaara, but I've recently brought her under thumb and under my rule, said Shao Kahn while sending Gaara a pointed look to not do that again. How can she be trusted? For all we know, this woman is going to betray you like Konoha did years ago, questioned Koyuki with her eyes on Anko, who was currently not looking anyone in the eyes and trying to avoid theirs. I have my ways. She can no more betray me then. She can kill anyone here unless I were to give the order. I meant it when I said Mitarashi Anko belongs to me, replied Shao Kahn with a grin on his face, and turned to Anko, who flinched under his gaze. You have some kind of slave seal on her, don't you? I accused, deduced from the way he saw the two. You are partially correct, Raikage-sama. You could say the seal on her is both a gift and a curse of sorts, remarked Shao Kahn while the eyes of the cages in the room widened. You put a curse seal on her like Orochimaru did? Asked Gaara while Shao Kahn shook his head at him. No. I replaced Orochimaru's curse seal, or rather half of his curse seal, with my power to make her subservient to me. Unlike Orochimaru's curse seal, this one is active, and will give her an increase in power when required. However, to ensure Anko knows her place, and doesn't try to betray me in any sense of the word, the seal causes Anko a great deal of pain if any attempt is made by her. She learned that the hard way several times after Konoha's invasion of Wave Country was brought to an end. Right, Anko, answered Shao Kahn while motioning Anko over to him, and she obeyed, though the glare in her eyes said to everyone that she didn't want to obey. That is correct, replied Anko in a reluctant tone. Impressive, remarked the Sandaime Tsuchikage with Shao Kahn smirking. This is the price of betraying one's self. She was like me once. Hated. Shunned. No one wanted to be around her or love her. Then they offered Anko a chance to be loved. All she had to do was hate and abuse me like she was one of them all along. It seems fitting that her life belongs to the one she chose to abandon for greener pastures, while leaving someone else who suffered growing up to die, remarked Shao Kahn with Anko glaring at him. I still had a chance at a life. I knew you were as good as dead when they told me the offer. I had to make a choice. I wasn't about to stick my neck out for some scrawny-ass kid wearing mostly orange, acted like a baka almost all the time, and was pretending to be a shinobi. You were dead weight, exclaimed Anko while the others in the room watched the two interact and waited for Shao Kahn to do something. What he did do was laugh. You're right. I was all those things. But you were just as pathetic, if not more, than I was back then. Anko, you were a dango-eating junkie. You loved to hurt people whether they deserved it or not. You walked around looking like a slut with your choice in kunoichi attire, and smirked all the while knowing it was true. You loved to dress in such a manner and loved to make men drool when they watched you go by, but never made the approach to ask you out. Of course, it's no surprise since no one really took you seriously, outside of the fact Orochimaru was once your teacher, before he threw your ass away. What man in their right mind would want to date, much less fuck a pathetic, discarded student of the notorious Orochimaru of the Sannin? Said Shao Kahn in a mocking tone, while Anko grit her teeth. Shut up, whispered Anko angrily, since she didn't want anyone to heed this, but knew it wasn't possible, and had to stand there while the others in the room listened. Why? Because it's true. Face it, Anko. I may have been a lost cause in being a shinobi by the age of 12. But you were a lost cause long before then. A discarded experiment who had two choices once entering Konoha. Become a loyal shinobi to earn your right to be accepted, or become a cheap whore in the village's red light district where every shinobi could take their frustrations out on you for what Orochimaru had done in the past. Not much of a life either way, since both were worthless to begin with. It would have been better for you to just kill yourself and let the animals eat your body. Not to mention Iruka only started to like you after the powers that be in Konoha decided to act as one voice in mind to turn the perceptions of the populace in your favor. All so you could become like them and hate me in their place, continued Shao Kahn before Anko's hands clenched into fists and moved to punch him in the face. Only for the seal to activate, and Anko fell to the ground in pain. Bastard! Exclaimed Anko while hating the fact his words hurt, and the seal just made it worse. The truth hurts, doesn't it, Anko? Asked Shao Kahn coldly while not caring how the others perceived this display of power over the woman. He enjoyed seeing this woman on her knees, in pain and forced submission. It was only fair since Anko had repeatedly mocked him in a very similar fashion years ago, during her alone time in questioning him about what happened with his battle against Sasuke. You wouldn't be talking so high and mighty without this seal keeping me from kicking your ass, retorted Anko, as she had been humiliated one day after the next by obeying his every command, and feeling intense pain when she refused to follow through with his orders. As if you had the power to do so in my present state. Or did you forget I gave you the chance to fight for your freedom in a fight? A fight which you lost, said Shao Kahn with Anko gritting her teeth again in pain and humiliation at the memory of their fight. Shao Kahn had put up with her verbal bitching soon after returning to what would be his new home, which was fitting since it was an impressive castle worthy of his station as a daimyo. However, the man's patience with her had gone thin quick, fast, and in a hurry before making the woman an offer to earn her freedom by fighting him. If Anko won, he would let her go, free from the seal, and she could go back to Konoha to tell them what she knew. If she lost, she was his bitch for the night in bed once fully healed and accept her new life regardless of how he treated her in the future. Anko accepted, of course, hitting him with just about everything in her arsenal, and using every single strategy she knew to possibly win. In the end, however, her new master had beaten the former special Junin badly before dragging her form to the bedroom, where he proceeded to use his power to heal her injuries using the very seal that bound her to him. After that, he ripped off what clothing she had left, and then claimed the woman that night in a way Anko had never been taken before that night. While she mentally despised Shao Kahn for what he did to her, the body she could no longer say was hers had embraced him, and his lust-filled actions that night. Anko had never been dominated like that, as she always thought of herself as being the one in charge of a relationship, and this was thought to be proven with Iruka when they were together. However, the seal on her body, and Shao Kahn's own aggressive means of intimacy, had completely overpowered whatever rational form of protest the mind would create. She had lost. He had won. She was an example of what happened to shinobi, who were restrained by the enemy under the terms of being spoils of war, as many would say. It happened with Konoha's enemies in the last 6 years, so why should she be made an exception in such a case with being Shao Kahn's first trophy? I haven't forgotten, mumbled Anko before the seal on her neck stopped glowing, and the pain went away. No one seemed to notice her cheeks had become slightly flush. If the group around the two did notice it, they were unsure if this was because Anko was embarrassed, angry, or something else. Good. Now, stand up and act like a respectful bodyguard for a change, commanded Shao Kahn before he turned to address the rest of the group. So, commanding. He can force me into submission anytime, thought Mei, as she liked what she saw in terms of power, and commanding tone made her loins being to froth once again. This display of power notwithstanding, what exactly are you proposing in terms of helping us in our war against Konoha? Asked Dei, as he saw Shao Kahn turn to his gaze upon him, and the Raikage felt himself feeling intimidated by the giant man, even taller than himself. As I said, I wish a small shinobi force from each of your villages be provided to come protect Wave Country from future invasion. At same time, I will personally fight Konoha shinobi, and ensure those like my so-called father are crushed underneath my feet until Konoha falls one way or another, offered Shao Kahn with everyone looking shocked to hear this since daimyos never went into battle. Not since before the Wandering Clan's era for shinobi before Hidden Village were formed to unite scattered clans together. But, you're a daimyo of a country. No offense to Koyuki-sama here, but someone on the throne ruling over people does not normally fight in a battle or war, unless you have an army behind you, said Baki, who had been acting as bodyguard for Gaara, and had decided to voice his opinion on the matter. Normally, such a thing is true, but I am not one to sit on a throne and let others simply do the fighting for me. I was a warrior first and foremost when I became what I am. I shall continue to be one here and now, said Shao Kahn as he saw Baki nodding, and decided to keep his mouth shut. Konoha will seek to kill you before any offensive on your end can begin, my old friend, said Gaara with Shao Kahn letting out a chuckle. Let them come. It will just mean they die sooner than later, remarked Shao Kahn before walking back into the shadows, and Anko following right behind him. Still want to have a temporary truce with Konoha? Asked Mei to the Tsuchikage, who looked like someone had lit a fire under his ass, and he almost looked 10 years younger. After what I just learned and saw at the hands of our newest ally, not a chance. Let's bury Konoha deep into the ground where they belong, replied the Sandame Tsuchikage, with the others now smirking at him. Akatsuki HQ. Is this accurate, Uzumaki? Naruto has returned, asked Pain, while each member of the Akatsuki was assembled. Yes, Konoha is in an uproar. They aren't even trying to hide it, despite knowing what it will do in rallying their enemies who see the Kyuubi Jinchuriki as a hero. Apparently, the boy has become a full-blown demonic warrior and took down the invading force in Wave Country. All by himself, I might add, replied Itachi with silence echoing in the room for a few seconds. I see. So the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has gotten stronger since his escape from Konoha. They sent a hefty force to Wave Country that would give one of us trouble if fighting alone. Itachi, you will take Kisame and fight the Kyuubi Jinchuriki in battle. Test him in terms of strength, gauge his power. But do not capture unless it's possible, commanded Pain with Itai nodding. Finally! I get to see if the Kyuubi brat is worth my time fighting. He was trembling in fear of me once I took the Baiju's power away with a single swing of Samehada the last time we met, remarked Kisame with a grin on his face. Don't underestimate him, Kisame. From what our spies have reported, he's not the same Kyuubi Jinchuriki we know, and not afraid to kill others, warned Itachi with Kisame just grunting at him. We'll see, said Kisame casually. What about the other Jinchuriki? We've been behind schedule by 3 years now, said Sasori, since the plan was to take the Jinchuriki from their villages 3 years ago. But the re-emergence of the Yondaime Hokage and his family along with other key players had set the organization back. Now that we have all the pieces on the board, the time is nearly upon us to capture all 9 Jinchuriki from their hidden locations. However, we must not forget that Konoha has been after us as well, and won't hesitate to use our movements to their advantage. We will move when Konoha is not looking and monitoring us so closely like I sense they are now, replied Pain, while looking at everyone with his Rinnegan eyes. They didn't dare contradict him. Fire Country border, 1 week later. Hinata rushed to the border of Fire Country, her heart pounding with excitement and fear at the same time. Why? Because she was on the run. Hinata had made food for her squad last night, and secretly mixed in a powerful sedative into it before rushing off to Wave Country. The squad had been on a patrol mission to watch over the area, and Hinata had been put into the rotation since her eyes were necessary for scout. Many had assumed Hinata had gotten over her crush of Naruto, believing he had died soon after escaping the leaf, and his scheduled execution. That her affection for Naruto died that day, and she was acting like a real shinobi because of him not being around to distract her. They were wrong. Hinata got stronger all right, but not for the reasons the powers that be in Konoha first thought. Hinata had pushed herself for Naruto, to get stronger for Naruto, to become a kunoichi of unrivaled skill for Naruto, so that in the event they meet up again, he would be able to see her, and see just how much she had grown for him. Even if she could not have his love, Hinata could still gain his respect and acknowledgement as a kunoichi. I'm almost there. I'm almost there, thought Hinata, as she memorized the most direct route to Wave Country from where her squad had set up camp. only to be caught by an invisible force that prevented any further movement. Shadow possession jutsu is a success, declared Shikamaru, as he had sensed Hinata would try something soon, and had secretly requested he be put on the girl's team. Like Hinata, he knew the quickest route to Wave Country was where the patrol was sent, and the girl was a master when it comes to using herbs for all things medicinal. It would not be difficult for Hinata to make some form of powdery sedative, pass it off as spice for the food, and wait for the team to eat before falling asleep for hours. By the time the team woke up, she would have been long gone, in Naruto's arms, and the Hawkage would have been angry beyond measure. Which was why Shikamaru ate ration bars and secretly dumped his food on the ground behind him, while the rest of the group ate their meal. A gamble, to be sure, but necessary to test his suspicions that Hinata would abandon Konoha to be with Naruto, and take the first chance she got to flee to Wave Country to be with him. "So you figured it out, Shikamaru," whispered Hinata, as she was forced to turn around and face Shikamaru and walk toward the Nara. "It wasn't hard to figure out where your loyalties lie, Hinata. Even if trapping you with my shadow possession jutsu was troublesome," remarked Shikamaru, while Hinata glared at him. "You will not stop me from leaving," declared Hinata, with Shikamaru frowning at her. "You would betray Konoha for Naruto, your home for him?" questioned Shikamaru, with Hinata's scowl increasing. "In a heartbeat. If you were truly as smart as everyone claims, then the reason behind my actions should become clear," said Hinata, with Shikamaru sighing. "I do understand you, troublesome woman. I understood your reason before the mission even started." "You're in love with the baka," replied Shikamaru, before finding Hinata was fighting against his jutsu. "He's not a baka. Don't call him that," replied Hinata angrily. "Okay, say he's not a baka. It doesn't mean him being back will change things. He's a monster now, Hinata. He killed Konoha shinobi without mercy. Iruka-sensei is dead. Anko is his prisoner. Who knows what Naruto is doing to her," said Shikamaru, with Hinata struggling harder. "No more than what she deserves. Anko was hated like Naruto-kun, but once Konoha stopped hating her for the curse seal on her neck, she turned into the very people who once hated her, like they did him. So why should I care about a hypocrite like Anko, like Iruka-sensei?" One pretended to care about Naruto while another suffered like him, but in the end they showed their true colors and attacked an innocent boy for the demon sealed inside his body. "How is that right?" Hinata challenged, with Shikamaru straining to hold the jutsu in place. "It's too troublesome to think about, Hinata. It's even more troublesome for us. Question our leaders on this. Was it wrong what Konoha did? Yes. Should they have moved to execute Naruto? No. But that is life. Sacrifices must be made, whether it's on a shogi board or in life," explained Shikamaru, with Hinata looking furious. "And you still wonder why Tamari-san broke off any contact with you after Suna decided to terminate its newly made alliance with Konoha. You're clearly not nearly as smart as you really think, Shikamaru," replied Hinata, with Shikamaru scowling deeper at her. "That mouth of yours is almost as troublesome as your actions here. I'm sorry, Hinata, but you won't be seeing Naruto anytime soon. I'm taking you back to Konoha to be tried for desertion and face the Hokage's judgment. At the very least, you will have your mind altered, and your personality changed to one befitting a Konoha shinobi," said Shikamaru, while Hinata struggled harder when hearing that. "Over my dead body," proclaimed Hinata, knowing what that would mean for her should they succeed. Her gentle fist fighting style lost forever. The cage bird seal on her head with her deal with the rest of the Hyuga clan lost. A life of suffering for reasons unknown until the day she died, by arrogant clansmen. The love she felt for Naruto would be lost, and no doubt be replaced with hate for him for reasons not her own. Troublesome. It would just be easier to kill you now, and explain myself later. "I am sorry, Hinata," replied Shikamaru, as he manipulated the shadows below Hinata to rise up over her body and move to strangle the Hyuga. "Says the man who is afraid of being in a commitment with a woman," said a dark voice behind Shikamaru, and making the Nara's eyes go wide in shock while feeling sweat now descend down his neck. "Naruto," whispered Shikamaru, while looking behind him and saw the giant figure with the massive hammer-based weapon in hand. "It's Shao Kahn, actually. And what's this I hear you were going to kill Hinata? Or were you going to choke her until she was unconscious? Once you did that, you could bring Hinata back to Konoha and have her personality altered. Right?" questioned Shao Kahn with Shikamaru, feeling very unprotected right now. The Nara strategist was starting to wonder if this was how some inmates taking a shower felt if they dropped the soap. That this was the feeling of dread when there was a large guy behind them with a cruel smile on their face expressing the desire to cause pain. "Naruto, I know you are angry with me, and the other rookies for turning our backs on you. But you have to understand that we had to do it. There was just no strategic value in siding with you when Sasuke was brought back to Konoha," explained a scared Shikamaru, before feeling his control over his shadow retract toward him, since he would need his strength to redirect it toward the entity behind him. "Not everything is about strategy, Shikamaru. The best laid plans never work. This isn't a game, my old friend. This isn't shogi where you lose the match and you can play another one with your opponent in the future. This is real life and you've lost. Time to pay up," replied Shao Kahn with Shikamaru, nodding before his eyes hardened. "You first," replied Shikamaru, before directed his shadow possession. Jutsu on Shao Kahn and trapped their shadows together before moving swiftly up his body to wrap the hands that formed around his neck. "No!" exclaimed Hinata as she moved to strike the Nara and free the giant man that was once Uzumaki Naruto from Shikamaru's grasp. "Checkmate! You have lost, Naruto," replied Shikamaru, as he knew the quickest action that followed this was to make the shadow-based hands snap Naruto's neck before Hinata could reach them. Only to find himself unable to follow through with the plan due to Naruto breaking the shadow possession jutsu and grabbed the Nara's neck from behind, before snapping it and throwing the dead Konoha shinobi away. "Worthless sloth," remarked Shao Kahn before focusing on Hinata, who stopped to stare at her former crush and see what he had become since she last saw him. "Naruto-kun?" asked Hinata as she moved slowly to approach him, and slightly afraid he would attack her for some reason. "It's Shao Kahn now," replied Shao Kahn solemnly, while Hinata nodded. "You look well," said Hinata while mentally screaming at herself for saying something so pathetic. "As do you. You've become the beautiful woman I knew you would become when you grew up. And no doubt a powerful kunoichi," said Shao Kahn with Hinata blushing and nodding. "I have gotten stronger. I challenged my family for the right to use my version of the gentle fist style and become a free woman, so I no longer have to worry about going through an arranged marriage. I now have a chance to be with the man my heart desires," replied Hinata while Shao Kahn nodding, though he looked a bit saddened about the last part. "I see. The lucky man you've chosen to marry will be happy to have such a woman such as yourself to call his wife," stated Shao Kahn before he put his wrath hammer away, and was surprised to see Hinata walk toward him again. "You misunderstand. My heart desires you, Naruto-kun," said Hinata with Shao Kahn looking at her in shock since he didn't think she would still want to be with him after all this time. "You wish to be with me? Even now, knowing that I am not the boy you once knew? Knowing I'm no longer human?" questioned Shao Kahn with Hinata, nodding, and once more took a step forward with determination in those lavender eyes. "I don't care about what you are or what you've done to become like this. I care about you as a whole," replied Hinata with Shao Kahn looking at her right in the eyes. "I suspected you cared about me, but I wasn't sure. People can be deceptive when they want to be and play with one's heart," said Shao Kahn, as he wanted to believe the girl he knew briefly back then, who blossomed into the woman before him, did in fact care about his well-being. "Not to you. Never to you," replied Hinata, as she felt herself walking closer to him until they were barely a foot apart, and she found herself unable to look away from his helmet-covered face. It actually made Shao Kahn a bit uncomfortable to have someone look at him with such devotion when not under the influence of some spell from a sorcerer. or a power beyond one's own control that made you do something that you normally wouldn't do at all. I have done things, terrible things, things that would disgust you. Betray your image of me, said Shao Kahn, with Hinata not backing down. I know, I'm not a naive little girl. I never believed you wouldn't change from your ordeal with Konoha, or wherever you went once entering that portal. I would have changed too if I had been in whatever position life threw at you after escaping your execution, replied Hinata, as she wasn't going to believe the boy she had a crush on, and later felt love for, had stayed a naive person, believing he could overcome anything through sheer willpower alone. Once you come with me, there is no turning back, Shao Kahn reminded her. I knew there was no turning back when I sedated my squad to escape and started my run toward Wave Country, replied Hinata, with Shao Kahn nodding. Then let us go, before any more filth from Konoha decide to intervene, said Shao Kahn with a small smile, and Hinata returned it when he extended his hand to her. A part of the Naruto-kun I know is there still. That's all I care about, thought Hinata as she took his hand, and the two walked toward Wave Country. By the time the Konoha patrol team woke up and searched for Hinata, all they would find is the body of Nara Shikamaru with his neck snapped, and his body mostly eaten by wild animals. Konoha days later. Hinata abandoned Konoha, asked Kurenai in shock at hearing her former student had left Konoha. Yes, she drugged her squad and got in a fight with Shikamaru. Though from what I was able to examine from the bodily remains, another person may have been involved. And I think I know who it was, replied Tsunade with Kurenai gritting her teeth in anger, since she knew who it was the Hawkage was referring to, since there could only be one person Hinata would leave Konoha for. The QB brat, exclaimed Kurenai in anger, due to knowing Naruto had Anko in his clutches, as well as Hinata now. Yes. I don't know how he found out, but Naruto met up with Hinata and took her to Wave Country after she fled the squad patrolling the area. Shikamaru came to me in the belief Hinata would flee to Wave Country, but I was skeptical of his opinion, and yet I wasn't going to take the risk of him being right. So I assigned him to the team to watch Hinata's actions should she attempt to run, explained Tsunade with Kurenai gritting her teeth. Permission to join the retrieval team to bring back Hinata, said Kurenai with Tsunade shaking her head. No. Denied. You may be a Kunoichi Kurenai, but you are also a mother, and have only just gotten back to active duty when not spending time with your child, replied Tsunade with Kurenai once more becoming angry. But he had Hinata now. Not to mention Anko is his prisoner, protested Kurenai with Tsunade, nodding with her scowl increasing. I'm well aware of that fact, but we have to handle the issues of Konoha as a whole, and I can't spare the shinobi needed to infiltrate, much less attack Naruto to rescue Anko, and being Hinata back for proper recognition. Iwa has gained ground since Naruto's return, putting us on the defensive, and our loss at Wave has prevented us from preparing our plans to create a fleet for invading Water Country on hold. Not only that, but Jiraiya recently told me that his spy in Kumo was killed, and a special Ambu attack squad in connection to another mission capable of ending the war in our favor were destroyed. I won't go into details about it because the mission is beyond your pay grade.